Your brand new iPhone deserves the best protection, and the iLune 3-pack screen protector plus 3-pack camera lens protector has you covered. Don't take risks with your iPhone. Click the link in the video description to shop now on Amazon.
My dad spied on my sister and molested her before she vanished at 17. I believe he murdered her despite killer's confession. Sarah Turney was just 19 when she walked into a Phoenix, Arizona police station to be given an update about her sister Alyssa, who had vanished from the family home 7 years before. What she didn't expect to hear was that her own father, Michael, was now the #1 suspect in the case, and that a search warrant was being executed on their house at that very moment. Even more horrifyingly, friends of her missing sister then spoke out about how her controlling father, who watched her with cameras 24/7, had allegedly molested Alyssa. But had Michael Turney gone so far as to kill her and fake her disappearance? After a false confession from an already jailed serial killer sparked a fresh police investigation, Alyssa now believed her father was responsible and set out to find justice. This harrowing story will be told in the new Sky Crime documentary, Family Secrets. The disappearance of Alyssa Turney, set to air on Sunday, 9th March at 9 p.m. This tragic tale could not be further away from the happy family they once were. Ex-cop turned electrician Michael and mum Barbara brought together their kids from previous marriage, before having Sarah together. Step or half wasn't a word we were allowed to use. We grew up considering each other brothers and sisters, Sarah recalls. We were all one big family together. But when Sarah was just 3 years old, tragedy struck. Her mum passed away from lung cancer, leaving Michael on his own to raise all 6 children. Soon, the older ones had left, and it was just Sarah, Alyssa, and their father with Alyssa left to cook, clean, and be the mother Sarah needed. Then, on May 17, 2001, everything changed. It was a great day for me. I remember getting on the bus, going to the water park, and then after school, my father picks me up. He says your sister's not answering her cell phone, Sarah said. We get home and I go right to her bedroom. I was sure she'd be there, but she was. On her desk was her cell phone, with a note tucked inside which read, "Dad and Sarah, when you dropped me off at school today, I decided I really am going to California. Sarah, you didn't want me around, look, you got it, I'm gone. Dad, that's why I saved my money, I took $300 from you, Alyssa." Despite efforts to contact friends, the 17-year-old was nowhere to be found, until Michael claimed he received a 5 a.m. phone call from her a week later, cursing him and telling him to leave her alone. Police traced the call to Riverside, California, where they headed with stacks of missing person posters. Yet despite their efforts, they never heard from her again. The police also didn't take it seriously, treating this as another classic story of a teenage runaway. I was trying to block it out. I went from this kid who was extremely scared of drugs and alcohol, and overnight I started experimenting. All the things I was told Alyssa was horrible for, the drinking and drugs, my dad would supply me with, said Sarah. While Michael was lenient with Sarah, he was accused of being controlling of his stepdaughter, Alyssa, when she was growing up and doing the same things. For the most part, we hung out at my house because she wanted to get away from her home as much as she could, recalls Charity, a teenage friend of Alyssa. Every time that he would drop her at my house, Michael would make a point to speak to my parents about what she was and wasn't allowed to do. Sarah adds, I was told that Alyssa was constantly out of control. Michael started watching her every move, even installing a hidden video camera in a vent in her bedroom and videoing her through the window while she was at work. Even their home phone line was hooked up to a cassette player to record every incoming and outgoing call. I hoped that Alyssa actually ran away, but a bigger part of me believed that was impossible, because I knew she would have never left Sarah alone in that house. Alyssa would always tell me how uncomfortable it made her him watching her every move, said her friend, Charity. I hoped that Alyssa actually ran away, but a bigger part of me believed that was impossible, because I knew she would have never left Sarah alone in that house. The case went cold for years, until in 2006, a shocking confession seemed to turn everything on its head. Thomas Heimer, a self-proclaimed serial killer, was in a Florida prison serving life for another murder when he handed a guard a picture of Alyssa torn from a newspaper with the words, "I killed her, and I'm going to make you famous." Phoenix police were quick to fly in and interview Heimer, but it soon became clear that things weren't adding up. Heimer claimed that Alyssa was a heroin addict, which she wasn't, and upon further examination admitted that he might have been mistaken. They hadn't solved the case, but it was enough to put Alyssa back in the spotlight. A new detective was in charge, William Anderson, and he was keen to get to the bottom of what had happened. "Honestly, I was having trouble with a teenage girl cutting all ties with everybody she's ever known," he said. "That just doesn't happen. That could suggest something nefarious could have happened to her." Michael declined a formal interview with the police, but claimed that her boyfriend, John Lockman, was violent towards her. He showed police a videotape taken just one day before she disappeared, showing the couple in a heated argument before Alyssa throws her phone at the wall and John drives off. But when Detective Anderson interviewed John, it emerged that Michael had told him Alyssa was cheating, which prompted their videotaped confrontation. For Anderson, what at first looked like evidence of a violent boyfriend now appeared to be evidence of a staged scene set up by Michael. Yet what Anderson was told next took things to an even darker place. John said Alyssa had claimed Michael had molested her, the documentary revealing that this story was then backed up by Rhett Turney, one of Alyssa's stepbrothers, and her friend Jessica Lang. They alleged that one evening, Michael had taken Alyssa out for a drive and tried to sexually assault her, leaving Alyssa in tears before making her leave the car and walk home, though Michael denies this ever happened. Another one of Alyssa's friends, Charity, recalled a time Alyssa said she woke up to find herself tied and gagged, with Michael on top of her and suffocating her, before threatening her to tell no one. Anderson knew there was extensive surveillance around the house and taped phone calls, but Michael never handed over the evidence from the day of her disappearance that could explain where she went. He asked for the tape of their call that supposedly happened a week after she went missing, but again to no avail. "Again, I ask Mike, I want to hear a recording of that phone call, but he doesn't have it. Michael's behavior towards me had become progressively worse, and I need those tapes," Anderson tells the documentary. By December 11, 2008, Michael was the prime suspect in this case. They executed a search warrant, but what they found is far beyond anything they imagined. "I recall walking into the front hallway area and seeing firearms lined up. Just a massive amount of weapons. It was an epic mess. There were just piles of things everywhere," recalls Dr. Aaron Nelson, the lead forensic scientist on the case. Other findings reveal Michael's twisted sexual desires. "We came across videotapes which show Michael having sex with a particular woman. We also found Polaroids. The woman is bound and blindfolded," said D.T. Anderson. Then, when you add to that what Alyssa's friends say she experienced, it becomes much more disturbing. Digging deeper, they suddenly realized they were in immense danger. Bags around the house were filled with pipe bombs, while Michael's van had been turned into one giant bomb, complete with propane, bleach, and nails. Inside his safe, they found a manifesto titled Diary of a Madman, explaining Michael's plans to attack his former electricians' union, over the belief they were trying to kill him, although Michael denied he ever intended to carry out this plan. It also detailed a bizarre theory about what happened to Alyssa. Michael says Alyssa was abducted by the union and murdered, and that her body was dumped in California. But none of these things make sense, explained D.T. Anderson. "When the trial started, I was getting more and more nervous, but I was hopeful that we would finally get justice for Alyssa." He was arrested and jailed for possession of the explosives and released in 2017, but police were no closer to solving Alyssa's case. The missing tapes were nowhere to be found. Frustrated, Sarah began digging herself flat out, asking her father when he was released if he'd killed Alyssa. In response, he said that if she wanted to know the truth, he should come and visit her on his deathbed. She also found a map with a location in California marked, but the police told her they couldn't do anything without a body. By now, however, Sarah was convinced her father was responsible. It wasn't until August 2020 that Sarah heard the news that the police had taken him into custody. It's absolutely horrible to hear that your father's been arrested for your sister's murder. But at the same time, all this hard work, giving up so much of my life for this fight, it was the right thing to do, Sarah told the documentary. By July 2023, Michael Turney, now 75, was on trial for Alyssa's murder. When the trial started, I was getting more and more nervous, Sarah said. But I was hopeful that we would finally get justice for Alyssa. Yet the prosecution was instantly met with problems when it was ruled that none of the testimonies about Michael's sexual abuse of his stepdaughter could be included. Michael's defense was strong after all. There was no evidence of a murder weapon, a body, nor any witnesses. The defense tried to create a story of her being some crazy teen who must have gotten herself into some big trouble, and that's the cause of all this, said Charity. Sarah also began to feel frustrated. Everything the defense presented in terms of my thoughts and feelings came from an interview with police when I was 19 years old. That interview is based off memories I had when I was 12, so that was all used against me, Sarah told the documentary. They knew exactly what they were doing. That is the handbook on how to victim blame a child who was abused. As the trial went on, I got more and more nervous. Suddenly, everything fell apart. Based on a rare technicality, the judge determined that not enough evidence had been brought forward for the case to go to jury, and Michael was acquitted. I was in shock. It was heartbreaking. What happened in that trial is not the truth of what happened to Alyssa, claimed Sarah. I feel like the trial was just part of the pattern. Alyssa's been failed by almost every adult in her life, her schools, the Phoenix Police Department, the county attorney's office. Everyone failed Alyssa. I put myself through all of this for Alyssa. Her story deserves to be told, and he needed to be confronted because no one else had ever done it. The acquittal has given him power to say, "Look, I'm innocent," when that's not what the acquittal means. It means the state did not present their case, she told the documentary. Months after Michael's trial, Sarah met with her father for the first time in years to confront him with what she believes happened. "Will I get that confession on your deathbed?" she asks him. "The story you have heard is never going to change, even when I'm dying. Because I did not molest, and I did not kill your sister," he says. "Why are you doing this, Sarah? To make money off your dead sister if she's dead?" But in her reply, Sarah left him without any doubt over her feelings towards him. "I feel nothing for you. I will leave this conversation and never think of you again. My children will not know who you are," she said. Sarah remains determined to uncover what she thinks is the truth, and has now built up a strong online following to ensure Alyssa's story is never forgotten. "I put myself through all of this for Alyssa. Her story deserves to be told, and he needed to be confronted because no one else had ever done it," she said. "I don't need a judge or a jury to tell what we all know happened. And although I don't have a legal sense of justice right now, I'm at peace with what I've done for Alyssa. You may not always get the results you want, but at least you have peace knowing you've done everything you can." Family Secrets: The Disappearance of Alyssa Turney, set to air on Sunday, 9th March at 9 p.m.